Hello, it's Tuesday the 7th of March 2017. Welcome to the Purple Army podcast in association with Goldstone Wealth Management. This is episode number 85. I am Ross McGregor. In this week's show we'll discuss the hot topics around the league, look forward to the playoff quarter-finals, and have another mugshot competition. First off though, we look back at the weekend's games. I'm joined for this part of the programme by Graham Thompson. How are you, Graham?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Ross.
And Jennifer Shaw. How are you, Jennifer?
Very well, thanks, Ross.
Obviously, we're going to cover the games that we haven't since the last podcast. So that was obviously the first one being Friday night against Nottingham. Goals from Matt Carter and Sir Canis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Both within 3.5 minutes. Got the Panthers 2-0 up before Stefan Del Rovere and Matt Beckett equalised. Another 3 goals, however, from the Panthers before the end of the period. Clark, Sir Canis again, and Brown gave them a 3-goal lead going into the first break. And the second period was relatively quiet, with neither team managing to score. However, despite 2 goals in the third period from Pitt and Hammond, the latter's coming within the last couple of 2.5 minutes, I think, that was remaining in the game. It was all just too little, too late, as the damage had already been done in the first. Obviously, it was noticeable, Graham, that Gary Russell replaced Z at the start of the second period. Was that a reflection, do you think, of where you think Ryan maybe thought the bulk of the blame was to lay for that?
Well, almost certainly. And I have to say, and you can't draw too many conclusions from edited highlights, obviously, but judging by the highlights that I saw, I think Finner had every reason to make the change. I thought Zeke didn't look the best in the goals that were, and certainly 1 or 2 of the goals that were given up. I just didn't think he looked that good. And let's be fair, his form hasn't been great of late, and obviously that's why Rusty's getting quite a bit more ice time, quite a bit more time in the net, and I think that's been the right call. I think Zeke's going through a bit of a struggle, and he's been good, and he's been extremely good for a good part of the season. But unfortunately, this isn't that part of the season. So yeah, a bit of a goaltender quandary just at this time. But of course, we've got 2 or 3 weeks to sort it out prior to the playoffs. So hopefully, we can get something sorted out by then.
His start against Dundee Stars before that, though, he had 31 saves out of 32, and he looked quite sharp. Jennifer, I don't know, has it been this? I mean, without delving too deep into his background, he's obviously been a more of a career backup. Is this playing a full season, maybe just catching up with him? It seems to be consistency that's his problem at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so frustrating. I mean, I think we can definitely say with the first period in Nottingham that it wasn't really down to the defence. For probably one of the first times it definitely was with the goaltending. Is he tired? Is he overworked? Not really had too busy a schedule, so I doubt it could just simply just be off his game.
Is he carrying an injury? We don't know. It could be anything. So it's difficult to come on here, and we can only speculate. We don't want to be hammering players. I mean, we talk about players all year, and you've got to always remember that these guys could be carrying injuries that we don't know about that's affecting their game. So whenever we're maybe giving somebody a hard time, you've always got to have that proviso, Graham, yeah?
Yeah, and Zeke has been injured on a couple of occasions earlier this season. I think it was, although the detail wasn't known, I think it was fairly well. I think it was common knowledge that the fact that he was injured, and that's why he had a spell out, and Rusty was getting more time in net. So yeah, as you say, it could be the same again. But whatever the reasons, the fact is he hasn't been at his best, and for that reason alone, I think Finners is obviously giving him the chance to settle down and do what he needs to do. And if he doesn't think it's going to happen, then he makes a change. He doesn't hang about, and I think that's probably the right way to do it. And as I said before, at the end of the day, we want to try and win every game, but we're now in this period post Gardner Conference Championship victory that there's a bit of time to try and get the team settled down. We certainly want to try and build some momentum. We want to try and keep winning. Falling a little bit short in that respect, but there's time to not so much tinker. The tinkering's done for the season. It's just about trying to make sure that roster's in as good shape as it can be for the crunch games that are coming up.
Yep, and Jennifer, you're not going to get down to Nottingham, or most teams give away 5 goals in the first period and expect to come away with a win. It's just a mountain to climb, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when we all kind of saw the the Twitter feed saying that it was 5 to the end of the first, I don't think any of had any sort of realistic expectations that we would pull it back. But yeah, we brought it back to 5-4, but it just was too little too late. It's always going to be a hard task. Though I had seen somewhere that the bus had been late, and that they hadn't kind of perhaps had a proper warm-up. So I don't know if maybe that had like an influence on as to how we were in the first period. Yeah,
it's always, everybody talks about bus legs, and there's always things that go on with buses, which we went to, I think, Graham, you were there one night, we went down to Sheffield and the bus broke down. It's just, these things happen, but you've just got to work around it, and, I kind of I don't really like the bus leg thing, I just don't. And, it might well be they didn't get a proper warm-up. We've so many times have we seen Belfast come over here and not get a proper warm-up, but they still seem to always play pretty well. Graham, I can agree with you, and it's the same, we know we're going on to the next game as well. Obviously, we're talking about the Dundee game. Gary Russell got the start. Kali Tanaka scored the only goal of the first period before Scarcella added a second in the second. Cody Carlson got one back for us before the break. However, Scarcella and Farina both added goals in the third to give Dundee the points. We all know the talking points from that game. Penalty minutes, the Clan had 95 to Dundee's 12. Power plays, Dundee went 3 for 16 and the Clan went 0 for 4. We also had Alex Levitt, Jay Rosehill and Sully getting flung out the game, which I think the last one tells you a bit of a story. We've all watched the game back again. I think, looking at it from me, there's a few soft calls. I don't think we've done ourselves any favours either, because I think it did get to the point where Pavel was just looking to pick on the Clan at one point. But, the Levitt one, I've seen, I don't know if he said something, I don't know, he can't have been thrown out just for that push. I've seen worse than that, getting penalised just with a 2-minute cross-check. I seem to remember one particularly on Matt Keith down in Cardiff, which was far worse than that. And the guy, I can't remember who it was, got 2 minutes. I'm at a loss to explain it. I'm not saying that we were whiter than white in that game. I think the frustrations came through. I think we've had times, but the last time we had Pavel, I actually praised him, saying he had a cracking game. But that game, I don't know, something went awry, and when you've got the opposing coach apologising for the league, on behalf of the league, for the way that game went, there's got to be something going on, something wrong with it. Did Pavel maybe just lose focus? Did we lose focus? What's your thoughts, Graham?
My thoughts are, I watched the highlights literally about an hour ago, and I'm still trying to work out what went on. And I was following it on Twitter on the night as well. I don't know, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. There's no doubt that we let ourselves down discipline-wise, judging by, more by what I was picking up on the night rather than trying to make some sense of the way the highlights went. But, definitely a discipline problem on our part, frustration over some of the calls, some of the soft calls. The Levitt thing, yeah, it wasn't exactly a hefty check, was it? It was fairly light. Okay, fell over, but as I say, I don't think that was in any way kind of malicious. But it was what it was, and I don't know, just a whole load of things. I watched it. I probably need to watch it again. Not that I'm going to, but just to try and make a little bit of sense of it all. But it just seemed to be one thing after the other, and yeah, combination of a poor referee performance. I say that, okay, soft calls and everything else. He lost control of that game. And when Mark Lefevre was talking afterwards, I think that's pretty much what he was getting at, was just simply that the ref didn't have control of that game. If ever there was a game that makes a good case for a 4-man system, maybe that was it. Because Pavel wasn't in control of that game, and as I say, frustration, yes, we let ourselves down and we can't get away from that fact, but the whole thing was just a mess, and as I say, the penalty rap sheet afterwards kind of summed it up. It's just a sorry mess, so yeah, best left forgotten, I think.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I mean, obviously, Graham and I all kind of skirted over the major decisions and looked at what we thought. I mean, what was your opinion, having watched it back?
I thought Dundee played really, really, really well. Every single one of their goals was very well taken. They took their chances, and the chances paid off for them. I genuinely think that they certainly took advantage of the situation that was kind of put before them. They are, at the end of the day, fighting off for their playoff spot that they've not made for the last couple of years, so perhaps getting the points is probably a little bit more important to them than it is to us. But there's absolutely no excuse that can be made for the refereeing. You're seeing missed calls against Clan players left, right and centre, and everything on Clan players getting called. Do you know what I mean? And as you've already said, when your opposing coaches even can't defend the performance from the referee, then you know that there's a serious problem. But the thing is, with this particular referee, and I know that the club won't come out and say anything about it, this isn't the only game that people have said they've kind of lost control, and it isn't the only team that it's happened to. So when you've got so many complaints about a particular referee, that something has to be done about it. There has to be further training. There has to be. It can't just be left the way that it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think we were white or white, but there was one particularly, Carlson, I think, for hooking, kind of halfway through the third, and you just thought, there was never a hook there. It's as if he got to the stage where he was fed up with us, we were fed up with him, and things just came to a head. But you can't have that. In both parties, you can't have it. I don't know. I'm always loath to get too much on the refs, because without the refs, we don't have a game. But you know, maybe obviously the Clan had tweeted, which is quite strange. Somebody had tweeted the Clan about it, and the official account tweeted that if they were speaking to MD, the league, they wouldn't be, you know, quite rightly, wouldn't be putting it on social media. So I don't know if there's some sort of discussion going on round about that, but 95 penalty minutes is certainly the most we've ever had in a game in 7 years of being in the league. And I haven't checked, but I would reckon it's 16 penalty kills. I think the majority of the second period, Clan were on at least a 5-on-4, or at least a lot of 5-on-3s. But I think Jennifer's absolutely right as well, Graham. We're kind of in the situation now where we have kind of got our seeding. We know we're going to be at least 2 or 3 in the playoff quarter-finals. We're playing teams, and we've got one on Wednesday night against Manchester, who are fighting for the playoff lives. And we've not really got that to play for at the moment, so I would not be surprised if we see a similar, not I'm talking about the refereeing performance, but a similar sort of game where Manchester are scrapping and scraping and we are playing the game out. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is going to come tomorrow night?
Well, it's what we were talking about last week. I mean, I said it last week. I said this is a big challenge for Finner, is to keep that team competitive during a period of time where, I mean, let's face it, we want to try and finish fourth, obviously, so everybody's saying quite rightly that that's really the target that we're going after. Is it a massive target? Well, it might be significant at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, it's you know, let's face it, that there's no real crunch games until the playoffs arrive. So it's keeping the team competitive. I always believe that winning's a habit, and likewise losing's a habit, and I think if we just fail to fully turn up for games, which I don't think is Finner's style anyway, but I think if we did, and even subconsciously fall into that kind of, well, it's a bit of a nothing game, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, especially when it's a home game, you're going to turn up in front of whatever the crowd's going to be. It's probably not going to be that great tomorrow night, but, you know, you've still got paying customers who turn up who expect to see a good performance from their team. And, you know, this fan base expect this team to do well, and it's been overall kind of let down this season, so I don't think anybody's going to be too happy if we have a team that turns up and doesn't really do its best to try and win the game tomorrow night. So you're right, Storm have got far more at stake, but you know, we have quite a bit at stake as well, because I genuinely believe, and you know, we get Sheffield coming up on Saturday. You know, these are always good games, and I would hate to think of a situation whereby, we don't turn up against Sheffield on Saturday night, because I love beating